As you can see, this is Red at Code Red 2. I had to get a new computer, a new laptop. And this is actually the second time I'm recording this video because last time I recorded it, it crashed on me and it only recorded the first 5 minutes of a 20-minute video. So we're doing it all over again because we are dedicated to security and keeping people safe. So, yeah, basically, I had to set up a whole new machine. I had to set up a whole new, Kali Linux box. If all of you can tell, I'm actually using still Kali via Windows subsystem for Linux, which is amazing. And I'll do a whole separate video on WSL and how to use it and the benefits and why it's so great. It's pretty amazing. But today, what we're actually going to be talking about is the initial reconnaissance example on our Metasploitable machine. I'm going to learn to talk one of these days. And I actually do. I have the Metasploitable machine set up once again through VMware, just like we did before. And I've got my Obsidian Vault, and I already got the IP address. I got the Obsidian Vault set up for our notes, and I already got the IP address of the VMware Metasploitable machine. So, first things first, we're just going to make sure that we can actually communicate with it. So here on my Kali box, which, if you're familiar with try hack me or hack the box, we call it the attack box, but I'm just going to ping -C for count, number 4. And then this is the IP address of the Metasploitable machine. Look at that. Look at that. Too perfect. All right, so we can communicate with it. And then I went ahead and made a directory. You can see right here, Metasploitable is the directory. That's funny. That was from when I tried to record the video last time. So we're going to remove it. Okay. Let's just go in here real quick. Right. Okay. Well, you are seeing me remove stuff, which I should have done before I started the video, but that's okay. You guys are seeing what it actually looks like. So, we're doing a scan. That the first thing we always do is we find information. We don't just break into something. We don't just start doing security testing. We gather as much information as we can. Information is actually the name of the game. Information reconnaissance or recon, that's what shows us our different attack vectors, different vulnerabilities, kind of what the threat landscape is for either a network or even an individual machine. A great example is there are a lot of pen tests that are performed on, a big enterprise level network with, multiple IP addresses that have multiple different hosts, different computers, machines on them, or you could be doing testing on one individual server, which is what the company's asked you to do, or even, a specific IoT device or something like that. So today, just, to demonstrate what this is like and what reconnaissance is like in initial scanning, we're going to be doing it just on the individual machine on Metasploitable. And we're going to be using Nmap. So with reconnaissance, there's really two types of reconnaissance. Okay. There's active and there's passive reconnaissance. Best way to describe it, passive reconnaissance is like gathering information on your target without actually engaging it. So a great example is what you can publicly find on the internet, right? If you Google, like if you're doing a pen test or doing ethical hacking on a specific company, Starbucks offices, well, then you'll Google and find information about their physical office location, or maybe even their website, right? Or maybe you'll look at the social media profiles of an employee that works at the target company, or the IT administrator of that target company. So that's all public information. It doesn't involve us directly engaging with the target whatsoever. Active scanning, however, and active reconnaissance, so that is gathering information by actually engaging with the target. And that's what we're going to do today. There's some great videos and great content out there about open source intelligence. And I'm sure that I will, at some point pull up some open source intelligence or OSINT tools and do some reviews on those tools. But what we're doing is we're just starting the first steps of initial pen testing. Okay. So first things first, we already know that we can communicate with the machine, right? We've got our notes open, and we're just going to start by running an Nmap scan on the target, right? Oh, jeez. What did I say it was? 31.128. I got my shit together. Don't give me shit. We're good. Look at that. Oh, jeez. Look at that. That was quick. Okay. So initial Nmap scan, it's showing us all the open ports and the services that are running on the target. Okay. And if you know about networking, which networking is a big part of cybersecurity, I highly encourage you to at least go out there and study networking, study for the Network Plus maybe. I know everybody says that, but I actually got a lot of good information from it when I was starting out. Doesn't mean you got to take it. Doesn't mean you need to get the certification. I'm just telling you to study the material so that you know it, right? So, oh boy. Okay. It's all right. Right here, FTP, Telnet, those are considered plain text protocols. They're not encrypted. That's a big vulnerability. So right there, we can tell some big vulnerabilities that we already have. Okay. So that's just a general Nmap scan. All right. It just shows us the open ports and the service that's running on those open ports. Now, what we can do, go a little bit deeper, right? Because we're trying to do reconnaissance, is find out about the service version. And the service version is really important. The service version is actually what allows us to be able to have it basically gives us more information, right? So for example, right here, I can tell it's running, it's running Telnet, or right here, HTTP. It's running an HTTP protocol. Red is getting his shit together, I promise. It's running an HTTP protocol. Okay, so if it's HTTP, what type of server is it? Is it Apache? Is it Nginx? And if so, what version? Is it like Apache 2.3.5? We want to find that out. So there's a couple of scan tags we can use to go a little bit deeper, right? Actually, let me clear this out for us because let's say we go after Telnet. It's port 23. All right. We'll do an Nmap scan again, but this time we'll do -P. And we'll choose port 23. Now, I think there's like 65,000-ish ports, okay? But when you run an Nmap scan, it really just runs the scan on what's considered the top 1,000 ports, and that's something to know. If there are plenty of other ports that may be running things that we don't know about because we're only scanning the top 1,000 with a general Nmap scan. So we could do... instead of this tag, we could do -P-, and that would run all 65,500 some ports on the target. Okay. But for us, we want to look just at that Telnet port, that -P23. And then I'm going to put in the service tag. So that's S_V. So what that says is basically it tells Nmap to get the service version of the services that are running on that target. Okay. So now, if I put in the target IP address, 192. What? No. Look what I did. Anyways, 192.168.31.128. You guys are seeing all my mistakes. Ooh, what does that tell us right here? That's some good information. It's Telnet, and the version is Linux Telnet D. Now that's important. That tells us two different pieces of information. That tells us it's Telnet D, okay, and that it's on a Linux system. It's the Linux version of Telnet, which tells us that the machine we're attacking, which we have no information about starting out, is a Linux box. It's a Linux operating system. That's a lot of good information that we could put in our notes, and that could lead us to, who knows, in the future, it may be like, what are the vulnerabilities on this version of Linux? And we may even try to do privilege escalation with a Linux specific privilege escalation script. So that's good information. But then doing the same thing. So if we just do the service version scan on the entire target, let's see what it gets back. Waiting. Still waiting. There it is. All right, look at that. Okay, so you guys can't see the bottom here. Oh, that's all right. So what we're seeing is the versions right there, FTP. It's actually VS FTPD dot 2.3.4. I'm getting my shit together, I promise. Look at that. Apache HTTPD 2.2.8. Oof. Okay. Now, why is this so important? Or even down here, FTP, Pro FTPD 1.3.1. Well, that is because Google can be our very best friend. Okay. So I just pulled up Google and I'm going to research that Pro FTPD 1.3.1 vulnerabilities. Right there. Look at that. We already found a CVE. So CVEs are common vulnerabilities and exposures. Excuse me. So this is from NIST, very reliable. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST is kind of the gold standard when it comes to cybersecurity. You know, they put out a lot of different special publications on like the cybersecurity frameworks and risk management frameworks and things that, you know, a lot of different security professionals can use as templates. But basically right here, it tells us that there's a SQL injection on that version. So there's definitely a vulnerability here. It gives us the score and it gives us the resources to be able to learn more about this. Okay. Now, outside the scope of this video, basically we would document this, okay? And then we could use it with, say, the Metasploit framework, which is meant to be used to exploit this practice machine, Metasploitable. And we could find this exploit and see if we could use it maliciously and gain unauthorized access to the machine. So that's a lot of what we do actually as research. So we find out information about the services that are running on the machine. We find out about the versions, and then we actually go through and see if there are exploits or vulnerabilities for those versions or for those services, and what can we do with them. That's a lot of what you're doing with security research. This is it. And I know it's a joke, but like all your search engines, Google, Bing, Shodan, they're your best friends. Being able to perform research is one of the keys that you can do. And this is part of it. You're doing reconnaissance and you're performing research. Another example I use all the time is like lockpicking. So a lot of people see in Hollywood, you go up, you pick the lock, real easy, it's done, right? Well, in reality, when we're actually, casing a place or wanting to break into a place, we actually go do reconnaissance, find out about the lock, what type of lock is it, maybe take pictures of it, buy that same type of lock, practice with it, do research, figure out what lock picking tools will actually pick that lock, and then we're able to show up on the actual job and then pick it ourselves. And this is the same thing. It's the same concept. We're finding out information and then we're performing research to be able to go in and run our exploit. Okay, so I'm back in our attack box and our Kali box. We're going to run another Nmap scan. Now we got some good information when we did the service version scan on that specific telnet port. Okay, we know that this is a Linux machine. However, another Nmap scan type that I wanted to show you, I'm just going to clear that out real quick, is the tag -O. All right, -O. So with Nmap, you can actually run an Nmap scan with -O on your attack machine or on your victim. Man, I gotta learn to talk. And that is actually supposed to scan and try to find out the specific operating system of the target, of the host that you're trying to attack or that you're trying to find information about. Okay. Now the great thing is that telnet scan we did with the service version, it gave it to us right then and there. It told us, what the operating system is. And this is interesting. So we just ran the -O, capital O argument tag for Nmap. And it says right here, no exact OS operating system matches for host. If you know what operating system it's running on, see this. And it gave us a TCP IP fingerprint. I don't know what to tell you about that. But that's interesting because when we did the operating system scan, it doesn't tell us what it is. But when we do the service version scan, we end up finding out about the operating system because the Linux version of Telnet. So there's more than one way to find out the information that you want. Okay. So now we've confirmed, it's Linux. We didn't have to confirm it by doing a -O scan. We confirmed it by doing the service version scan. So yeah, we already know it's a Linux based system. All right. Now let's go a little bit deeper and find out even more information about our target. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out again. We're going to run a final Nmap scan. Okay, and we're going to use the Nmap scripting engine. Now, the Nmap scripting engine is really interesting. It's a feature that basically allows scripts to be run in parallel with Nmap. Now, the reason that that's important is because it actually has a really big vulnerability detection feature. Now, it's not meant to replace an entire vulnerability scanner. All right, let me say that. And there's some great vulnerability scanners out there. Okay, Nuclei, Tenable, Nessus. There's some good vulnerability scanners, but Nikto is another really good vulnerability scanner. But basically, the Nmap scripting engine can let us know what vulnerabilities there may be on the target and on the ports and on the, service versions. Okay. So, and if you've done anything with like Hack the Box Academy, you've seen them use this a million times. But I'm going to use this specific one-liner for Nmap. Okay. So this is Nmap -SV to get that service version, -SC to get this, to use the scripting engine. I'm going to put in our target and I'm going to let it run. And we're going to see what we get. All right. So here we go. That's a lot of information. That's some great information. So basically, it did a scan of the top 1,000 ports. It found out their service versions, and it ran the Nmap scripting engine to try to find vulnerabilities for us. And right here, this is a big one right here. So FTP, which again, FTP, it's a plain text protocol. It's not encrypted. That's a big vulnerability that we can use. It allows anonymous login. Anonymous FTP login is allowed. That's a big deal. That's a vulnerability that we could exploit. We could log in as an anonymous user and then see if we could escalate our privileges to eventually gain overall root access of this Linux machine. So it's one of the great things about, Nmap is that you can find out the service versions and you can find out a lot of the vulnerabilities through the Nmap scripting engine. Okay. And there's a lot more you can do with Nmap, but I'm just showing you the basics of doing reconnaissance, scanning a machine, finding out about vulnerabilities, and basically finding out about different attack vectors we can use. So I can tell you right now that port 21 FTP, anonymous login, that's a big attack vector. Right there, we've got the server status as well. And the service version, we can literally Google vulnerabilities that are related to that version of VSFTPD. Man, I have got to learn how to fucking talk today. Jeez. Killing me. All right. And right here, Apache, HTTPD 2.2.8. We could definitely do some research on that, couldn't we? Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. The work group that the SMB share is involved with, the version of Samba that's being run, Debian. So now not only do we know that it's a Linux operating system, but it's a Debian based operating system. Oh, Ubuntu. See, we're finding out all kinds of information. Okay. So this is really, really good. And we're going to document this in our vault and we're going to use it moving forward. Now, there's one last thing I want to show you, and that is outputting this scan into a file. Now, the reason this is really important, so remember I said document, document, document. Okay. We want to document everything we can. All right. So even though we're going to copy and paste our Nmap scan into our notes, which we're using Obsidian for this project, I always like to have duplicates. And a lot of programs, Nmap included, will allow you to output the results into a file to save it so that you've got copies of it and you can always go back to it later. Okay, so I'm listing our directories. I'm going to go into the directory for our project, which is Metasploitable. All right, no files in there. Now I'm going to run that entire Nmap scan again. Okay, but this time I'm going to give it the tag O capital N. So this means to output it to a file, and we're going to call it full nmap scan.txt. And there's a few different versions of outputting. You can do -O capital G for like a grep friendly version for parsing out. You can do O capital X for an XML version of the Nmap scan, but we're just doing a normal human readable version. So that's what we're doing, -O capital N. All right. And yeah, we're going to run this scan, and then it's going to be saved to this. And then we're also going to prove it and then copy and paste it to our notes. Okay, well, I was in a good mood. I was a happy red. Now I'm not a happy red. I'm a little irritated red because this is taking forever. And I do not know why. We're going to see if this scan is going to finish anytime soon. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. All right, so you're going to notice the video just changed a little bit. So it took forever for that scan to get done. So basically what I did, you can see here, I actually went back in and I added, so we did the full Nmap scan with the service version, the Nmap scripting engine for vulnerabilities, and we put the output into a file that said full nmap scan.txt. If I was doing an Nmap scan on just, port 21 about the FTP service, or like we did earlier, port 23, I would have, done the output file of like, FTP nmap scan.txt or whatever I wanted to call it. Okay. But you'll notice here I put a -T4, and that's for the timing or the throttling. So Nmap actually allows us to be a little more aggressive and speed up the timing of our scans. And I got kind of done waiting, so I sped up the timing of the scan, and I think it's 1 through 4. And so what's outside the scope of this video right now, because we're just using this as an example, we're just getting our feet wet with doing some reconnaissance and showing what doing some exploitation on the Metasploitable box is like. And you guys are going to see me try to run an exploit on the box live, see if it works, see if it doesn't work. But the more aggressive we are with our timing, the more noise we make. So -T4, that's a lot of noise, which means a firewall or an intrusion detection system may see me doing scans on the machine. Versus there's other things I can do to either throttle the timing down to try to be silent or stealthy. I can do stealth scans. I can do what's called packet fragmentation with our Nmap scans, where it actually fragments the packets. It's really cool because it helps us evade and break through firewalls to be able to do our scans and get our information back, which is really neat. But basically, that's what that -T4 is. I was getting impatient. I wanted the scan to go faster. So we did our full scan. It gave us the output, and it output it into a file. So I'm just going to clear this out real quick. All right, ls. That's our file. Great. I'm going to cat full nmap scan.txt to put the output out there. There we go. And I'm going to copy it with Control C. The other thing I wanted to say too, one of the reasons that we like to put outputs into files is because, I'm using Kali Linux through Windows Subsystem for Linux on a Windows machine. So I've got a GUI, I've got a mouse, I can scroll up and down. We may not always have that. You may have to run on a virtual private server or a virtual server running a Kali box or a Parrot OS, which is another Linux-based security research operating system. You may be doing that on just a command line interface and you don't have a GUI. You can't scroll up and down. That's why it's important to be able to save the outputs to files so that you can read them and see them even on just a command line interface, because you never know when that may come up. So I copied that. We're going to put it in our vault and see right here. Here's our Obsidian Vault, Metasploitable, Recon. We've got it right here. Okay. And I like to do this. I always like to have the IP address available to me. I like to separate it out especially if I'm working on just one machine. I like to separate it out into Recon and then findings and then proof of concept and exploitability. So that's me. Everyone likes to do their notes their own way. But yeah, this is really what it is this is doing reconnaissance on this machine and, basically making sure that we document everything. And that's what we just did. We documented everything, and we're going to be able to, research these different versions, these different vulnerabilities, and see if there's some exploits that we can run to be able to break into this target machine. So that's it. I hope you learned a lot. There was a lot of pausing. I know the video went a little wonky. Whatever. It's not like last time when I recorded the whole fucking thing and then it just went away. But, it is what it is. So, but yeah, you guys get to see my screw-ups. Screw-ups happen all the time. Networking screw-ups happen all the time. Trying to make machines connect to one another and they don't happens all the time. Okay, so I'm not just going to write about, oh, I did this and it's so easy and this is my video on how to be able to break into this box and do this capture the flag. No, you guys get to see the frustration and the screw-ups too. All right, so yeah, I got nothing else for you. That's it.